Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this tutorial. So this is the very first tutorial of the Next.js. So right from today onwards, we'll be starting with the Next.js, and this is just the introductory part in which I'll be introducing you guys to the Next.js and some of the concepts which you will be coming across when it comes to the Next.js. And yeah, this is somewhat better compared to what we have, or you might have already used something like the React.js. So this is some when it comes to Next.js, this is one step above it, like faster, better, and promising option compared to the React.js. So let's get started. So now your question may be, what is this Next.js? So basically, it's a React framework for building the full stack web application. So when it comes to the React.js, we use the separate architecture for the front end and back end. So basically at the front end we use React, at back end we use Node.js when it comes to the month stack. Okay, so if we consider the month stack as a concept, front end we use React, back end we use Node.js. So when it comes to Next.js, there is nothing like we have to use something separate at the front end and back end. So in the Next.js, you can build the front end, back end, everything all together in the same repository. You don't have to maintain the separate repositories or the separate architecture for that. So now, like when it comes to Next.js, it is created by the Varsal and provides the features like the server-side rendering and the static side generation. And when it comes to the server-side rendering, process is much more faster when it comes to the rendering and all. And API routes also there. So if we are comparing the Next.js with the React.js, we have to define the routes and which component to open when the specific route is encountered. But over here, this is a folder-based routing, which we will see in the future classes. As of now, it's just an introductory part. You don't have to stress more on all these concepts. We'll be coming across all these things in the future. And yeah, last point is it's file-based routing. File-based routing is basically uh, here the routing works a little bit different based on the files and folder, which we will see in the future classes. And the next concept is SSR and CSR, which is server-side rendering and client-side rendering. Okay. So now what is server-side rendering? Server-side rendering means the HTML of the page is generated on the server for every request instead of in the browser. Okay, so basically what happens when we request something from the browser, so what it does, page is generated on the server side. On the server side only the page will be generated, and then it is sent to the browser. But on the client side, what happens? In the client side rendering, the browser first downloads the blank HTML, and then React hydrates it with the JavaScript. Okay, so this is how the process goes on. The client side rendering happens on the browser side, but on the server side, it happens on the server side. So this is basically the concepts which you will come across while learning the Next.js. So you have to aware of all these terms. And next is what is this SSG? SSG stands for the static site generation. When it comes to static site generations, means the HTML for the page is pre-rendered at the build time. So basically, what happens whenever we are deploying a new project, we build a project. Okay, so in the SSG, HTML for the page is pre-rendered at a build time. Page is then served as a static HTML from the CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network, or the server, which is basically super fast. Unlike the SSR, it doesn't generate the HTML on the every request. Okay, so when it comes to the SSR, it generates the HTML for the every request, but in the static site generation, it doesn't do that. So basically, how does it work? During the build process, when we do the next build or the React build, in the React we use the React build, and here we use the next build. During the build process, Next.js runs the data fetching. It generates a static HTML file for each page. These files are deployed to the CDN content delivery network. When the user requests the page, is instantly served. No server processing is required. Okay, so over here, data is already there, which it will send. It is not carrying out any processing for each and every request. And next we have the incremental static regeneration. When it comes to the ISR, it is basically the hybrid approach, which is basically the static plus regeneration. Pages are generated once and cached. Okay, so if suppose there are example like the news sites and e-commerce, where mostly the things there are very less chances where the product description, prices, and all these things will be getting changed. So in the news also, like the news, there are very less chances of these items to get changed. Okay, so pages are generated once and they are cached, and they can revalidate after a set of time. Okay, so if there is okay, let's consider the example of the e-commerce product. So once the product has been created, there is less chances of there will be like a frequent changes in the product or the frequent changes in the news. Okay, so for that purpose, their pages are generated once and they have been cached, okay, on some place memory, and they have been revalidated after some certain period of time to check whether the data is same or it has changed. If it has changed, it will carry out the update. If it is same, it will keep the data that way only. So this is all about the ISR. And next, why do we use the Next.js? When it comes to the Next.js is the SEO friendly. So when it comes to the React.js and Next.js, in the React.js, we might have to implement the features of the SEO to make the website SEO friendly. But here in Next.js, it is already having it. Because when it comes to the SEO friendly in the Next.js, it supports the server-side rendering. It also provides the metadata. Okay, so you can change the metadata of the site pages and all those things. And also in the Next.js, we can expect faster performance, automatic code splitting, and all those things. Built-in routes it is having. We don't have to define the route separately. It's the folder-based routing process. And next point is developer experience. Like it provides a hot reloading, and it is also making use of TypeScript. Works well with the real ecosystem as well. Now the key features over here, which makes the Next.js to stand out is routes, which is the file-based plus dynamic routes also there. We basically provide the file-based routing, and dynamic routes is basically when we want to fetch some data dynamically. When it comes to the e-commerce websites, there are different products. Okay, so now if suppose I want to fetch some data for the product one, and now again I have to fetch some data for the product two. Okay, so that time this concept of the dynamic routes comes into picture, which we will see in the future classes. So don't worry about all these things. And rendering mode, which is SSG, SSR, and ISR, which I already explained. API routes. You can also declare the or define or write code for the APIs inside of the same repository. Image optimization, middleware. So these are some of the features which Next.js is providing. API routes. So basically, when it comes to the API route, there is one directory called /app. It's a main directory where we will be writing our routes, and it supports the layout. So layouts is basically the design of our page, like the header, footer, sidebar, all those things, and server components, which means it's faster. Streaming and suspense. Suspense is comes into picture when there is latency of the data, and the streaming route grouping for organization. We can group some routes, like if suppose we there are the routes for the login, register, logout. We can group these routes together, which we will see afterwards. So this is basically the routing example. So over here, this is the old routing methods, and these are the new routing methods. We'll be making use of the new routing methods. Okay, so don't worry about all these things. This might look a little advanced for you all because you don't know these concepts yet, but I'll be explaining you all in the future. And these are the different type of rendering types which we have already seen, and these are some of the features which Next.js is providing, which React is failing to provide. Okay, so when it comes to the routing, React is having some different method of routing, but Next.js is file based. Server-side rendering and all this is SSR, SSD. It is not there in the React, but Next.js provides it. API routing, Next.js provides it, and SEO, manual built-in image optimization. So these are some of the features which are Next.js is providing. And real world examples and use cases of the Next.js is e-commerce sites are making use of the Next.js because it provides SEO and the fast load, blog and portfolio, which is making use of SSG and ISR dashboard, and SES service as a platform. Apps like the SSR plus API routes will be provided. Hybrid apps also you can build, which is mix of the static plus server renders. So companies which are using the Next.js are the Netflix, TikTok, GitHub Doc, Nike, Uber, and HashiCorp. Okay, so these are some of the companies which are already making use of the Next.js because they found it as a better option. Advantages: it provides the great flexibility, great performance, full stack. It provides API as well as the front end support. We can build API as well as the front end. It is a large ecosystem and Vassal hosting, and just some of the limitations of the Next.js build time for the very large sites, some features Vassal optimized, and learning curve. So these are some of these disadvantages, or you can see these are the limitations, but obviously we can overcome all these things. So this is all about the Next.js, guys, and I hope you guys will like this tutorial. Please provide support, and if you're new, please consider subscribing and watch our other tutorials as well. Thanks for watching.